and welcome back to part 36 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we're going to start collecting some new espers. Firstly, following from a side quest that we've been working on over the past couple parts, we now finally have the key to get into the back of the Barheim passage. We can't go anywhere near where the boss fight was when we originally visited here, nor can we go back through the actual main entrance and exit point, because it's all crumbled down into ruins. If you check the map, you can go as far as the save crystal, but it won't let you go south beyond that. But there are secrets to be found here, and if you're wondering where, because it seems like a pretty linear passage, well, can you see that bit that's shaded out to the left of the area just above us? That there? Well, that was because there was a gate blocking the way, so we couldn't go the full distance. That gate is no longer there. The moment you leave, the gate disappears, so as soon as you can return, that gate is open for you to visit. So, when you're ready and you've done your sightseeing of returning to an old site, get ready to head over here. The enemies won't pick up in straight away because it uses the same spawn group as the area is just in, but as soon as you transition between screens to the next area, you're now in the zone of where they know you're strong enough. They're like, well, hang on a minute, no, you have to come back to do this, so the enemies will up a level. But, of course, if the environment is becoming more dangerous, the loot has become more worth it. So it is still worth pushing ahead, just being a little bit more cautious because their levels would have increased. Well, I say that, you can tell that most of the enemies here are weak to ice and so are getting absolutely demolished by Blizzaga now. But the main reason why we're here, as I said at the start, is because there's an esper for our trouble, which is one of the more interestingly designed espers, if I say so myself. Like, some of the espers I find kind of forgettable to look at, but some of them have got a really cool aesthetic going on with them, and this is one of the ones I think falls into the latter. It is really cool to just see in motion and just function, but it is not the only one we will be getting today. I've been saying since pretty much the start of the project that I'd be putting off going back into the waterway, the sewers beneath Rabanastre, for as long as possible, because when you return there is a really annoying puzzle that without a guide will come across quite annoying. I follow a guide quite loosely with it, and you're going to see me do it in a way that makes it look like it was easy. It makes it look like you could have worked it out yourself, but trust me, when you first do it, you'll be backing and forthing a lot, and you'll be wasting a good hour before you actually just stumble into the answer. And so I didn't enjoy it, because on my blind playthrough, I didn't follow a walkthrough, and so actually did really struggle with it. And the reward for the other side, I guess, is worth it. It's another esper if you can do the entire puzzle. Like, there's one part of the puzzle that is more important than the other. Like, the first bit we do I consider more important because it's the start of the Necrohole side quest. We've kind of jumped a step a little with it, but I wanted to get it done since we're here, because there are set items that we need to get to give to one of the disciples that was in the Deadland. And to get that disciple to even appear, you need to have exhausted all the dialogue options with the guy on the bridge back at the very start of the Deadlands. But once you go to him, he asks for specific artifacts that he can, well, parts of it, so then he can make it together to make what you need, as we pick up Toxify right there. Which is pretty neat, to say so myself. No, it's not a technique, it is a spell, Toxify. Damages all foes at range over time. It essentially attempts to cast Bio party-wide. So how important that is to you will affect how necessary getting Toxify is. But that side quest, getting into the 3 doors of the Necrohole, the first one requires us to get some pieces, and one of the pieces can be got by doing that puzzle. It's an interesting one. There's one of the hunts we did ended in us freeing a boy from a house that was locked in the underground of Rabanastre, in the old Rabanastre, the worn down Rabanastre, the bad Rabanastre. The many names I could give it, the Rabanastre. Good old Lowtown. Anyway, if you go into that house, you'll find a note that hints at what you need to do to get the first piece of the key. Essentially, with the switch puzzles that affects the waterway, you need to flick the switches in a very specific order without worrying about where they open. It's just asking you to flick the switches on in a certain order and then back off in a certain order. And then once you have done that, you will hear a sound effect, and if you go into the middle of the arena, you will find something glimmering on the ground, and that is the shard. Whilst the rest will be dedicating properly to its own video next time. But that there is our end goal. That is where the Esper is. But what caught my attention on my blind playthrough, and I didn't remember straight away, so when I saw it I was like, hang on a minute, what? Is that there's another area beyond this that connects. And when I first played this, I was sitting there like, what? But it actually, when you think about it, it actually makes sense. Think about where we entered the Bargain Passage compared to every other zone. And on the map, all we've done is heard west, south, and then west again. Where would that realistically put us under? And that will make the answer of where that path will take you. As the trap causes disease on everyone, and I had yet to get cleansed, so I haven't put any kind of easy way of getting rid of it on a gambit. And I don't get cleansed for a while. Like, I think I straight up ran past it at one point because the treasure chest that it was supposed to be in just didn't spawn, which is a bit of an arse, but it's just what it is. Sometimes you get unlucky. There are a few techniques and spells that only have a chance of appearing, so if they don't and you know they're there, just leave the room. Just leave the room and re-enter, do it a few times. If it still hasn't appeared, because sometimes you just get really unlucky, the technique I seem to find works is I will leave the room, but on the PS4 version, because it auto-saves between rooms, I will then quit the game and load the autosave. And because then it's reset everything on a greater level, either that or it's RNG manipulation, one or the other, it will make it so the chest has appeared, and it worked every single time I did it. Like, not once did it fail me. Doesn't mean it's perfect, it just means I got lucky with it. But I had to take Holy off, because it was another undead enemy that was weak to Holy, but would cast Reflect, so the Holy kept on just bouncing back at us and causing problems. I think that's what the most intriguing thing with what they've done with the undead in this game, making almost all of them be able to cast Reflect. So then the one thing that has always been an absolute nightmare of the a nightmare for the undead that is great for you, is now something you have to work around a bit harder to get to, because it's always just heal them. If you can hit them with a full heal of any kind, it will ruin them. If you can, in the older games, it was if you threw a Phoenix down at them, it would end their fight immediately. They got rid of that in 12. You can't Phoenix down an enemy to kill it, unfortunately. But you can, if you have a strong enough white mage, once you've got Renew, cast Renew on it and then immediately follow it up with any attack. Because Renew is a guaranteed full heal, so when used on an enemy, it'll bring their health down to 1 no matter what if they are undead. Which makes one particular encounter later on really easy if you have it, because this also applies to reverse. If you have reverse at all on any enemy, reverse, as stated many times, makes every attack heal and every healing attack. So if you then use Renew, it would do the same thing as if you hit it on an undead. If you're wondering how to proceed over here, there's a precarious cart you can find on the side that if you whack will just be enough to tip it over to make your path. Allowing you to get to even more dead bones as they start casting Disable. Look how many status conditions we were on for a second there. Like, it's just passed. We had Oil Blind and Disable on us. Like, they will start stacking them up even if they're not, like, spammers of it. It can be annoying sometimes. But we get a Demon Mail, I think that said. Oh, I unequipped Maximilian from Balfir off screen because I wanted the magic push, I suppose. Because it was equipped on him by the end of last part, so I must have been between videos that I swapped it around and put him back on a magic set just to boost his MP. I can imagine it was more that I went to use him for something and then felt the difference without the MP. But we just picked up Shear. Shear is another technique that you absolutely want, and so I am kind of steering for it. Lowers magic resistance. Shear is another technique that is a stat lowerer. It's another one of the main 4. There's one that lowers the enemy attack, one that lowers their magic attack, one that lowers their defense, and the other that lowers their magic defense. We just got their magic defense. The beauty of these skills is that they can be stacked and they last the entire fight. So if there is a really difficult fight giving you a hell of a lot of trouble, go in there and lower their attack and magic attack. If you've got the strategy down but they're taking forever to kill, lower their defense, because you can just lower it and lower it and lower it. And the defense based ones, you can stack it 9 times. And it's not like 9 times and it just takes off a maximum of like 10%. No, you can knock off 80% of their stats. And that's across the board. You can knock off tremendous amount of threat from them. And it is the most recommended and most effective way of dealing with this game's ultimate known super boss. I say known because I'm ignoring Omega Weapon here. Because Omega Weapon's a super secret ultimate boss that doesn't even really appear on anything once you've done it. It's just there and the game doesn't tell you about whatsoever. As we pick up another hand bomb, so it's getting ignored. But the actual main final super boss, Yzmat, that it's like the last proper video of the project outside of covering trial mode. It's the last proper campaign video. Whilst the last one is literally just trial mode. But when we get to that, the only reason that video is under an hour is because of those abilities. If I didn't use those abilities, it would not have been 1 hour. It would have been about 3 hours. And that's even with the fact that the game was running at quad speed for that whole fight. That's how bad Yzmat is. But then that is way ahead, yeah. I know I'm jumping the gun a lot here, but Yzmat is like one of the most infamous fights in the entire Final Fantasy franchise because of how long it is. It's not got the most health. It was defeated by a boss in Lightning Returns if you have the game set to hard mode. But the difference is that Lightning Returns you can do hundreds of thousands of damage in a single second because the game is numbers porn. The entire 13 trilogy is numbers porn. They really highly stack up the numbers across the games, and Lightning Returns just takes it to an even further extreme. As we get a handkerchief on everyone to start getting rid of the oil. So the fact that there's a boss that has, I think it's like, I want to say it's 80 million HP in Lightning Returns, but I'd have to double check because I've never actually properly played Lightning Returns. I only ever played the demo back in the day and I wasn't keen, and so I just stayed away. But I'd have to check if it is, but I think it is around 80 million, so it does have the most health of any boss in the Final Fantasy franchise. But you can kill it in a minuscule amount of time compared to Yzmat's 50 million HP, the previous owner of most health of a boss in the series. To which they thankfully toned down on in 15. Adamantoise only having, I want to say, like 3 million. It was a hell of a lot more manageable. Even if that still took forever. But I say that, now you can just use the Ring of Lucii and end the fight in like 2 seconds. Which kind of defeats it, because then the people who've got the trophy... Oh, by the way, Bloodwing's here, one of the hunts. We literally just ran into him. I completely forgot this guy was here. Which is why I wasn't even remotely prepared for him. You see, I'm going, oh, whoops. And so I immediately throw Dispel and say, okay, let's do this. But because we could have done this side quest earlier, this isn't that hard of a hunt, because it knows that you could have come here just that little bit earlier. So you could have done the side quest as soon as we started climbing up to Arcadia, and we didn't. We left it until after we'd done the entirety of Arcadia and went to Guravegan before we did it. So that hunt isn't too bad. Same as the ones in the waterway. When we return to the waterway's been available for us to some extent for quite some time. The main outer edge of the waterway that we explored when trying to get into the palace way back at the start, I want to say you can get back to, but it's not, well, get back to already, but it's not as easy as it looks. Like, I can imagine you have to mess around a lot with the puzzles to get back into the outer circle. But there is a much easier way of getting into the inner circle, which I'll be showing this video, and, well, not the outer circle even, that I'll be showing this video, and that's why I decided to do it, this video, because I was like, well, if I'm showing off how to get in there, I might as well just get it done now. I think the only problem is that you start to get a bit bored going through these optional areas of undead enemies. There is a lot of optional areas that they just decide, if not undead enemies, toads. Like, they just throw so many of them in there that you start to get a little bit bored of the aesthetic. You want to fight a dragon or something different, and you're just like, oh, here's another skeleton. Here's another ghost. It's like, ugh. Nullifies weather or terrain effects and elemental damage, meaning if it's raining, blizzard and damage won't hurt as hard. If you're during the snowstorm, blizzard won't hurt you as hard. I think if you're in a foggy environment, thunder won't hurt you as hard. And I'm not sure what one makes fire hurt me more. But the idea is if you equip it, elemental differences won't affect you, so you'll just be hit normally by magic. But you'll also be halving wind. Ooh, camo belt. Camo belt's quite nice. Yeah, improves your hit rate. So, like, you know, sometimes when you go to hit an enemy, your character will bonk him like 3 or 4 times in a row. Well, it adds to that, it makes it more likely. But when you're ready, there's a save crystal there for a good reason. So only approaching when you're up for it, because that mist is of circling, so we've got our esper. Another optional esper. And this one can be pretty tough if you're not prepared for it, because each esper, kind of moving forward, will absolutely have a gimmick of some kind that you need to adjust to. This Grim Reaper looking guy is Zalara. Or Zalara. The way Zalara's gimmick is, you're under a time limit. Like I said, every Esper moving forward will have some gimmick tied to them, with only a couple exceptions. This one is the time limit. If the timer hits 0, the fight is over and you lose, and that's the end of it. And so, Zalara will do everything in its power to postpone your efforts. It will be casting Reflect, it will be making itself immune to physical attacks, it will be boosting its resistances quite drastically. Just in general, it's going to be a pain in the backside. It is going to do everything in its power to drag out those 5 minutes. But because I'm playing on double speed, it means I technically only have 2.5 minutes to get all this done. If you're playing on quad speed, even worse so, 1 minute and 15. Your best bet is, no matter what, before you start this fight, go into your options and set the game battle speed to the fastest it can be. So then your bar will fill up as fast as possible, since it won't affect the timer, as a minute has already passed us by because of the double speed. But once it can get past its physical attack, the only thing you need to be wary of is its ultimate, which is Death. Death is chance of instant kill. Hence the interestingly designed skull with hair. And unfortunately, chance of instant kill versus my luck means it hits everyone. It only has a chance of connecting. Chance is the key word, you damn game. And it hits everyone. Seriously, my luck, or lack thereof, sometimes is a testament to why I don't like playing luck-based games. If there is anything that is down to luck, I absolutely know to a point where I can call it that it will go against me. But outside of that, thankfully it's enough for me to pull through and end this thing with a healthy amount of time to spare. And as I said when we entered here, I actually find the design of Zalara pretty cool. It's one that just stuck out in my mind, and one that I remembered after my blind playthrough. Because a lot of them you kind of just forget. They don't look that special or that interesting. But Zalara with the whole Grim Reaper with the wings and the horn and the giant cape and having like almost like a woman half attached to him, it's just bizarre. It's just different. It's something that catches your eye a lot more than the next one we'll be fighting. But you've got Zalara, and Zalara, the doors on the license board that it opens up are they're interesting. Like, some of them are kind of pointless, but Zalara the Death Seraph, which is what a name, is one of the more interesting ones. So after a bit of a stack up and making sure everyone's tickety-boo, well, I should really say Pinello, but that can wait. We go into the license board and see what this will open up. Thrash, nothing. So we go over to Bash. Barsh gets Traveller, which can be quite interesting, but it's very limited because you have to especially spend a lot of time playing the game. Balthier, if he didn't already have it, would have got Steel and could have got Etherlaw. Okay, maybe it's not the one I'm thinking of, but I give it to Ash because no one really has anything interesting to get from it. Then it's not the one I was thinking of. That one's one of the ones that's kind of crap. If you've got a White Mage, I think that one's actually not too bad. Like, I think the White Mage one is that it gives you access to to weapons that are actually pretty handy to have. I think. I'd have to double check. But I remember Zalora being helpful, at least on my blind. I remember him being helpful, which is why it was kind of surprising to me just watching that footage and it not be helpful for anyone. I remember him being really helpful in my blind playthrough. I must have had it be for like a White Mage or something. But we can now finally find out where this passageway leads us to. And you see me approach it kind of cautiously because I'm like, where does this end up? It's the back door to the waterway, which makes sense. The Barheim passage is to the northeast of Rabanasta, and all we did when we went in here in the second visit was go southwest, so it makes sense that it would take us underneath Rabanasta. So us being in the waterway, it made perfect sense to me. But as soon as you walk in here and you're like, wow, that actually adds up. Like, it doesn't feel random, it feels like it makes sense. But we've now just got the waterway candle, which shows you this here, these little zones here. The entirety of that is just there because it's where our puzzle is going to be. So I save here before pressing on because there are some hunts we need to clean up. Firstly, we've got our reference to Final Fantasy VI. Ultros, or Orpheus as it's now using its Japanese name, will not show up unless you've got an only female party, ignoring guest characters. So as soon as he spawns in, swap out the other ladies and bring back your main party because he's already spawned in, and just get to work on him. And the main reason I tell you to do that is because if you've been building only a team of 3, you might struggle with Orpheus because you might only have 1 or 2 members that are powerful to deal with him. But the fact that as soon as they're spawned in, they're locked in, always means you can make advantage of that. You can always do things like that. It was the same with when it was in the Negrahol, and there was the one that would only spawn if you was at health critical. And as soon as it arrived, I just brought two members in that were at full health to heal up and save the day. But there is another hunt, and it's literally next door. And it's another pudding monster. It's another slime monster, which I found kind of odd. And this one's at least got a cooler look to it. But neither of them put up any real fight because we could have come here so much earlier than we have. Because you can go from the main path. But once you defeat it, you get the broken key. And the white mouse has been vanquished. So now it's just a matter of turning everything in. We took down Bloodwing so we can let this guy know. To get the Vampire Fang and some bombs. And unfortunately his friend that was here that he started the quest who died, he's had to bury because yeah. It was a bit of a depressing end, but at least we helped him out, I suppose, so yay. And this is the last time we'll have to put up with this outpost, I assure you. So off we go to Rabanasta to turn in the White Mouse to Sorbet, and then to turn in Orpheus to the Thief. We get the Burning Bow for our trouble, so you have any archers in your party, that's quite handy. Because as the name implies, it does actually have some fire attributes to it, I think. I'm pretty sure it has. And we get the Sluice Gate key as well, meaning we can now start the puzzle. The very annoying puzzle of the waterway. But there's one more thing to turn in, and there is a alternate reward and main reason why you want to do it. Going back to the Thief, we can tell him that Orpheus is gone and got his stuff back. Whereas like, you've recovered my things, you're lucky you found someone willing to help you. You can't hope to get by life stealing and piffling from others. Off with you now, hopefully you've learned something from all this. Thank you all of you, I've learned my lesson. I somehow doubt it. What's the saying, once a thief always? But anyway, it gives you stuff that's also probably stolen. But the main reward is once you've done every side quest that involves the waterway, every hunt that involves the waterway, some owl will approach you afterwards and will give you a blackened fragment of some sort of medallion. This is part of the Necrohole quest, so you need to get this. So you need to do these hunts. There's a lot of background things you need to do before you can start anything. It even hints at you what it's important for by saying you need to start a new life after Nabudis. It's like, oh, so this came from Nabudis. Getting the first shard of the medallion is easy enough, and the second one, once you understand the puzzle, is also easy enough. But there's 3 shards that go into building this medallion. The third one is really annoying. But you got some more hunts to turn in, so I go... We've also reached Knight of the Round now. If you followed along, you should be at Knights of the Round. Knights of the Round is the highest rank you can achieve. And it's also only has 1 hunt tied to it once you reach it, which is Yzmat. But you cannot do Yzmat until every single other hunt in the game is finished, other than the Shadow Seer. Because the Shadow Seer is a little bit more gimmicky and different, so I guess just for the sake of making sure it worked properly, they made it so you don't have to worry about Shadow Seer, which I just found kind of weird. But right now, we're picking up all the new hunts we can do. All of them aren't about to be done right this second. I'm picking them all up and I'm going to burn them all out in one video, because there's 6 of them. And some of them are more annoying than others, but all of them are going to be ones we were doing. The main threat of the lot here is the bottom one of this list, Fafnir. Fafnir is the hardest normal hunt in the game. Keyword in there is hardest normal. I'm not counting the elite marks when I say that, but there is a special reward for you defeating it because they are aware of how much harder it is. But once you go down to the sewer, in the bit that was our tutorial area where you started the game with Van, this room, you see what's glowing on the ground? This is the puzzle. Before we do anything, turn all the switches off using the sluice gate key. Because when turning them all off, it will reset everything and will allow us to do the first part of the puzzle. There is a very specific order you need to flick these switches in order to get the fragment to help you work towards those doors on the Necrohole. So once they're all turned off, you need to stand back and analyze them, because you need to open the number 11 waterway control. And I'm going to be going slow with this because I need to make sure, if you're following along, that you follow the exact order. Do not switch any of them on or off unless I say so, because it has to be in a very specific order, otherwise you have to turn them all off to try again. You then go to number 4 and turn that one on, which will completely lock off the water from the left side. But then immediately after doing that, you're going to reopen the water a different way, because you are now going to return to 11 and turn it back off. And you can't skip ahead. If you're sitting here thinking, oh, do you mean just the second one needs to be on? No, it has to be in a sequence of what order you turn them on, then off again. Once this one is off, and this very slow cutscene is transitioned, you're moving to number 3 and turning that on. And you might be starting to notice a bit of a pattern in how this puzzle works. Because now, you go back to number 4, and you turn that off. And after it opens, if you listen very carefully, did you hear that little that little click sound effect? That means you've solved the puzzle. And if you go to the back over here, you will find your second fragment, the doll fragment. If you're looking for a hint towards this, because you had like well, how would you have worked that out? This is the hut I was referring to in Lowtown, where there is a letter on the side that if you pick it up, will tell you about it. For the Necrohole side quest, you need to read this regardless, because there's certain events that will not trigger unless you have read it. So even if you already know the answer, you still need to read this. You obtain the dusty letter because you get it, and so it will come add to its own thing. Really, you figured out the letter and you got a bit of the medallion. I said the last chunk of the medallion is annoying. It's really the most annoying part of the side quest. It's so many backs and forths. But now to actually do the main reason you're likely to come down here to do this puzzle in the first place. The second esper we'll be getting today, yeah, 2-in-1 video, is down here. And is probably my least favourite one of the lot, but I know that's to an extent my bias towards not liking this area at all. You need to turn on both the switches on the right hand side, because it will restrict the water, allowing you to go to the lower level, because it's essentially you're damming certain areas with the water, blocking off the waterway so you can just go around them any way you see fit. There's also a I think it's a technique that's down here, but the treasure chest just didn't appear when I was here, so you see me like run down and check, but it just doesn't show up. So I pick it back up later. I don't get it on camera, don't worry, I just get it later. Because it was another one where it's only a chance spawning, and I wasn't prepared to stay here any longer than I needed to right this second. But down here, there's number 1 waterway. So flick that one on. The music oddly quietens down when you flick these switches over the rest, which I found kind of odd. But you will hear things move off in the distance. There is another switch called switch 2 that you need to use, which from there will open up the passageway to our next esper. And the reason why I'm avoiding saying its name is because I honestly don't know how to pronounce its name. So I want to wait until it's on screen and I can give it a fair go, because every time I look at it I'm like, what? Especially what's more annoying is that certain data entries put a space between the first 2 letters and the rest of its name, while some don't, making it more confusing as to how it might be pronounced. Because if it isn't a space, it's more Kukulane or Kukofane or something like that. But if there is a space, then it's Ku-Shalane or Ku-Shalane. You see, I'm stumbling and almost all my pronunciations sound dead wrong. But that's what I mean. That item there, that was a potion. That one has a chance of being what we were looking for, and it wasn't. So I'll just come back later. Like, I want to say it's like Ko-Kahulane. Like, listen, I'll give it my best attempt. Like, that can be my best effort for my terrible at reading brain when I get to it. Only 2 switches can be on at any given time, so you can't just turn all 4 on, block off all the water, and then wander around as you see fit. So this one and the next one needs to turn off before we can turn on the other 2 on the other side. Because that's all we're doing, we're mirroring the other side, just turning on the far left switches now. But we have to turn these ones off first of all, otherwise they won't let us turn them both on. The game makes sense of it by just saying the water would overflow in the middle if all 4 could be turned on. Because you'd block off every path and it keeps on flowing in. So making it so you can only block off some pathways but it will still flow naturally in others, just like I say, it just makes sense. Even if it is just literally just there to make it more of a puzzle, to make it so you have to think about what doors you want open and what ones you don't. And as you're looking at, you're probably sitting, well, hang on a minute, this looks piss easy. Like that first bit was a little bit of random, but that's because it was for a different side quest. Just getting it to get the esper, it's perfectly fine. If you want all the loot here, you need to mix and match a hell of a lot more, and you're not going to know that it's that simple. You're going to be experimenting, you're going to lose about an hour in here. And even now, you're seeing me be very cautious about what specific pathways I take when wandering through here, just to make sure I don't go the wrong path at any point. You also see me avoid as many of the encounters as I possibly can by holding flee every now and then, because some of these enemies just aren't worth the hassle. We're so over leveled for this area because we did it so late that it's really not a threat. The only thing that is a threat is the esper we'll be going for. But once you've opened that one, the main path to the esper is available, but we still need to turn off and on some other doors. The middle 2 need to be on, so turn on the far leftmost, or if you did it the other way around, far rightmost switch, and then just turn on the other one that's it nearest to the middle. Also, Red has just got hit with an instant kill there, which is neat. You see, I knew there was something down here, so you see me give it a good thorough check on both of them, but I just got unlucky. Which is an oh well. It's the only thing that can make this quite annoying to 100%. Hunting down every single spell and technique. There are some where you will look at, like if you bring up a walkthrough and you'll see things like, but I've been there, and it wasn't that. Oh, it's only a chance. Though having things that add to 100% but only having a chance of them appearing is just unnecessary extra work. It can be really annoying sometimes. But at this point I'm just time wasting. We need to head back to the center room to flick on the last switch before we go fight Kukaho, whatever his name is. The sewer Esper. The least memorable and the one I like the least of all the Espers. But I'm sure it has its benefits, and I'm sure someone will tell me it's actually secretly the best one or something. If anything would actually top Zeromus's Big Bang. Which I haven't actually shown off in any recording, actually. I might see if I can squeeze in doing that, because it's literally the technique once you get Zeromus is cast reverse on it, throw something that, like, use like Renew on it, or if you have an elixir for instance, use that because it will bring its MP down to 1 as well, which all of it will just stack onto Big Bang, have it use Big Bang and watch it do 300,000 damage to everything in the vicinity. It's absolutely ludicrous. But once everything's organised, you're proceeding directly straight. As you can see, the mist is starting to pick up in the environment, the hint that you're close. And when you go down these steps over here, you'll be entering your next challenge. You see me go a long way round as well, just to make sure there's nothing I missed before I cautiously proceed downwards and the gate closes behind you to lock you in. Now meet the ugliest and least cool Esper in the game. It's just a happy blob with an anchor through its chin by the looks of it. The gimmick with this one, your health is permanently draining. Look at how quickly it drains. It's like 100 every second or every other second. So you're going to be having your healers kind of on full force throughout all of this, because ShoSho lane here. What is that? Look, like ShoSho lane, because there's an accent on the U. So ShoSho lane. I'm calling it ShoSho. ShoSho will just constantly drain your health for the entirety of the fight, and similar to our previous one where it was on a time limit, will try and delay you more than anything. Or worse than that, has a chance to cast disease on you, which stacked up with the permanent health drain is just gonna hurt. So I just nuke it. I just go full force, let's just attack it. Black hole. Hit it as hard as we can and get this fight done as quick as we can. Which, to be fair, because of how over leveled we are, that did most of its life. So I was like, oh sweet. The only real other problem is that the extras that it can spawn are the same ones as what you might have encountered in the Deadlands of these flans. So there's a good chance that they will just cause problems. It also has invert. Invert makes whatever your MP is your HP, and whatever your HP is now your MP. So it's almost a guaranteed full restore of your MP, but your health is going to drop to less than 1,000 no matter what. So now you see me make some last second adjustments because I really didn't like this fight. I've never been a fan of fighting this thing because it's just another thing that just does everything in its power to stop your day. All of the gimmicky fights can range between amazing and god-awful, and it feels like there's really little in between. And this is just one of the ones that I always thought was kind of god-awful. The worst offender is still Ultima. We've yet to get to Ultima. Ultima's the last of the 12, because the story of the Espers is that they all is a gang of 12 of them that originally attempted together to fight the gods and were punished for their efforts and imprisoned on the planet. So they are all imprisoned here on Ivalice. Which is why some of them have names of previous villains in the series, because it's just a nod, because they're supposed to be ultimate evils of a different kind. The charge was led by an angel, believe it or not, called Ultima, which might be a nod to the story of Lucifer and whatnot, but either way, the angel Ultima has probably the worst gimmick of the lot because she's the ultimate one of the lot. But there is a secret 13th one that has nothing to do with the war, that is just that wasn't imprisoned because it tried to fight the gods, was literally imprisoned because it was just too powerful, and so they were scared of it, and so imprisoned it just in case. Which is Zodiac. Which Zodiac we won't be getting for a while anyway. Believe it or not, we actually get Ultimate after Zodiac in my Let's Play. I go for Zodiac first because I just found it more bearable than the idea of going for Ultima. Because Ultima's in the Great Crystal for this, and for the sense of explaining why I didn't want to go there yet. I've already said many times, but the second visit to the Great Crystal is the worst dungeon in the game. And not even by a small amount. It is horrible. But ShoSho is finally defeated, and that is the name he is sticking with. He is now ShoSho until further notice. And maybe it's ShoSho is the one I was thinking of that actually gave me something pretty decent on this playthrough. One of the espers we get on this optional run around gives me something that I was pretty happy and kind of excited to show you guys. I just can't remember which one it is. I thought it was the last one because I remember that one being really helpful for my blind playthrough where I had different job setups. But we've got ShoSho the Impure. And so, just like with our previous one, after a bit of a top up to make sure everyone's ready to go, let's check what we can get with it, and then I'll call it a part. So off to our license board. That's not helpful. That is the one I was on about. You get the tier 3 spells with your red mage. So you get all the Gurs plus Sleep Gur, which I'm never going to use. But the main treat is that I get Fire Gur, Berserker, and Thunder Gur. And that was an immediate sell. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yep. That is the one I was on about. Well, as soon as I got it, I was like, I'll look forward to showing guys that, because anyone who's using a red mage, there are some points where you feel like the red mage just isn't keeping up. Now they can, if you're following along. You now can give them the ability to do so. But anyway, next time on Final Fantasy XII, we're side questing to hunt down some more espers. But until then, you take care now.